Morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? I'm Steve Perry. I'm the President and Executive Director of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and it's my pleasure to welcome all of you here to the Pro Football Hall of Fame today for this special Black History Month program. You're going to hear a lot about this gentleman to my left in a moment, and we're honored to have Art Shell here with us this morning. But I wanted to mention, first of all, that we're very glad that all of you have come here today. We hope this turns out to be a wonderful and educational and fun experience for you, one that when you leave here you'll say you're glad you came and you found it worthwhile. Now, we're still expecting a couple other schools to show up, so maybe those seats in the back of you will be filled by the time we're finished. The main purpose of today's program, or any Black History Month program, I think encompasses several things. First of all, it provides an opportunity for all of us to learn a little bit more about some of the historic achievements of African Americans. And we're certainly going to hear some of the historic achievements in pro football by Mr. Art Shell. The second part of a reason why we have Black History Month programs is so that we can celebrate the fact that all Americans have worked to achieve progress toward racial harmony and toward understanding and having respect for the diversity of all people. When you think about it, if we recognize that diversity in people in our society is a strength, not a weakness, provided that we can work together and live together in a way that respects that diversity, it enables either a football team or a school or any organization to use that as a positive, not as a negative, and that helps everybody be more successful. So it's a strength, not a weakness. But we think the more that we know about that, the better we are able to recognize and benefit from it. So having programs like this is an attempt to make that happen. Now, we're very, very honored to have as our presenter today an individual who has, in fact, had made historic achievements in the National Football League, both as a player and as a coach. And I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to find out who is here and make sure that you know who has helped to put this program together. Now, I said this would be a fun day, a wonderful experience. We're going to ask you to ask lots of questions. Mr. Shell is going to provide a lot of information, and I think they're going to have an opportunity to see the building after the program. Is that not right? Who knows? Jerry? Joe? Where's Jerry? Yeah, well, hopefully. It would be a shame if you came all the way down to the Pro Football Hall of Fame and didn't get to go through. So put a little pressure on your teachers back there, and hopefully everybody will get a chance to go upstairs and take a look around. But let me find out if some of these schools are represented. First of all, is Canton South High School here today? Yes. All right. We could hear you barely, but we could hear you. Is Canton South High School here today? Yes. There we go. All right. How about Harrison Central High School? Yes. Okay. They're in the house. Woodridge High School? Very good. Can I hear from Tusky Valley High School? Yeah. All right, they're here. West Geauga High School? Yeah. Woo, they're definitely in the house. How about Girard High School? Yeah. Very good. And I mentioned Glenville is not here yet. I'm sure they'll be showing up soon. I understand they're on the way. And I won't ask all of them to shout out because we won't be able to hear them all, but we have a number of schools that are tied in by video conference. In fact, we probably have more students listening in today by video conference than we have in the live audience. But I want to name them. They're from Berea High School in Berea, Ohio, Fairland Middle School in Proctorville, Ohio, Valley Middle School in Lucasville, Ohio, Summit Academy in Columbus, Charles Brush High School in Lyndhurst, Mountain Gap Middle School in Huntsville, Alabama. Oh, I did hear from them. Buena Vista High School in Saginaw, Michigan, Founders Middle School in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, Burnett High School in Buffalo, New York. I didn't even know they had high schools in Buffalo, Joe. Then we have Uptown School Complex in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And we also, by virtue of some special efforts by the Miami Dolphins, and their connections with Miami-Dade County Public Schools, they have 3 schools on, the Caribbean Elementary School, and in fact, I understand that with that group at Caribbean Elementary is Twan Russell, a former linebacker who played for the Dolphins back in the 90s and 2000s. And then we have Barbara Coleman Senior High School and Earlington Heights Elementary School, also down in Florida. So let's give all of those people that are on by video a hand. Now, just to mention some of the folks who are in the back of the room who have helped to put this program together for you. If you could turn around, you'll see Jerry Shockey, raise your hand. If you have any questions, he's the guy with all the answers. Joe Horrigan, our Vice President Communications. Chris Schilling, who works with Joe. Salim Chowdhury is there, and I see Brian Proud and Jim Frucci on the cameras. So lots of people have worked together to make this a success for you. Now let me go back to tell you a little bit more about our guest, and particularly some of the things in his career that he will be talking and answering questions about today. Art Shell was born in Charleston, South Carolina back in 1946. And during his high school years, back when he was your age, he worked very hard to be an outstanding student and an outstanding athlete. And that hard work paid off because he was able to go on to college, and he continued that hard work when he went to Maryland to attend Maryland State Eastern Shore. And he continued to be an outstanding student there as well as an outstanding football player, where he played both ways, offense and defense. And he was named an All-America player in both his junior and senior years. So he was quite an athlete, probably still is quite an athlete. After graduation from college, Mr. Shell was selected to play in the National Football League. He played offensive tackle for the Los Angeles Raiders, which subsequently became the Oakland Raiders, from 1968 to 1982. He obviously had great success as a player, and he helped to lead his Raiders to play in 2 Super Bowl games, Super Bowl 11 in 1977 and again in Super Bowl 15 in 1981. Now, after his outstanding playing career, Mr. Shell became an assistant coach for the Raiders from 83 to 89, and then in 1989 he made his first mark at history, and that is that Mr. Shell was named in 89 the head coach of the Oakland Raiders, becoming the first African-American head coach in the history of the NFL, at least in the modern era of the game. There was an African-American head coach, but that was way back in 1921, and no one had done it since. And Art Shell was the one who broke through that ceiling to become the first African-American head coach in the National Football League. Now today, when we see an African-American head football coach, it's sort of common. You've got Mike Tomlin, who just won the Super Bowl. You've got Lovie Smith and Tony Dungy, who competed in the Super Bowl not long ago. You have Dennis Green, and a number of others who are now African-American head coaches, and who knows, maybe there's one sitting in this room. But Mr. Shell was the first one to break through in 1989. Now, also in 1989, he achieved something else of historic proportion, and that is that he achieved or received the highest honor that a professional football player can achieve when he was enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame right here in Canton, Ohio. So that was another historic accomplishment for Mr. Shell. Now, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and we have a brief video of Mr. Shell, and I'd like to show that to you now, and then he will make a few remarks before he begins answering your questions. So, Jim, if you will cue the video, please.
Throughout his career, Art Shell was widely recognized as one of the best offensive tackles in the NFL. Art was an integral part of the Raiders' running game of the 1970s. Shell was a strong, tough-minded competitor who never backed down from an opponent. Shell's blocking helped lead the Raiders to victories in Super Bowl 11 and 15.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here with all of you young men, young ladies. That's what you are, young men and young ladies. You're not boys and girls, young men, young ladies. And you owe that respect. My name is Art Shell. A young man, I remember 1955. Now, 55? What is that old guy talking about? But I can remember 1955. around that time, riding in the back of a 1953 Chevy, coming from outside of Orangeburg, South Carolina, riding in the back of the car with my siblings, my mom and dad, and passing this place or this school with all these big buildings. And I'll never forget my dad saying to me, "How would you like to go to that school one day?" I didn't know what kind of school it was, but at the time it was South Carolina State College. At that time, he put a bug in my ear because he understood one thing: education was important for all of us to achieve what we want in life. And he understood because he and my mom only had a sixth grade education. But school was big, big, big in our family. So when you look at what's on the video and you see a football player, that was the farthest thing away from my mind. I had no idea about football. But in the back of my mind, going to college was it. And as time went by, and my dad was very tough about going to school. If you got sick, you didn't want to stay home. You know, some kids, well, I'll get sick, I'll stay home and take it easy. You sick, you stay in the bed all day long. And no getting up, playing around. You sick, stay in the bed. But better yet, get your tail up and go to school. Now, why would a guy with a sixth grade education keep pushing that? Because he understood one thing. In order to achieve in our society, education is the number one thing that you must get done. It was true yesterday, and it's true today. Without an education, you won't go anywhere in our society. And all of you in this room right now have visions, you have dreams of what you'd like to do, but you haven't brought it to the forefront. You haven't taken a look and say, you know what? Here is what I want to do. Now is the time to do that. Don't wait till you get to college to make a decision. Map out, because it's in your brain, it's there. All you got to do is pull it to the forefront. Here is what I like to do. These are the goals that I want to set. And you know what my goal was? I wanted to become a teacher. Because as time went by and I went to high school, I was impressed by my instructors and my coaches. So my dreams at that time was to go to college, if I can, and my dad was pushing and pushing. But when I looked at it, I knew my dad couldn't send me to school, not with the money he was making. I was thinking about it this morning. I remember each week my dad would go pick up a paycheck for $35, $40 a week. $35, $40 a week. You got people making $35, $40 an hour today. But that's just the way it was. We had food on the table. We had clothes on our backs. We had shoes on our feet. Even though my dad, who worked at the paper mill, bought me some shoes with steel toes, Brogan boots, whatever you call them, but I had steel toes in them. And how crazy I was, I used to take a hatchet and show the guys, hey man, look at this, look at my shoes, and chop the toe. That's how crazy I was. But always pushing for the education. And as I said before, all of you have that within you. So, an ends to a means was for me to take this body, which was steadily growing. I love to eat. Boy, did I love to eat. I ate all the time. I couldn't wait for my mom to go to the grocery store, and I'd go with her and buy some butter pecan ice cream, man, and some bologna and cheese, and I'd sit there and eat all day long. Steadily growing. So this body, my vision was to take this body and earn my way to college. Because all of a sudden, you had some college people on the campus looking at me. But coming up, I never thought about that. So now here's a way. I would take this body and I earn a scholarship to go to school. I get my education. I'll come back and be an instructor and coach football. So these people were impressive to me as to what they did when they went about their business of teaching young students. Having dreams. You know what dreams are? Dreams are the building blocks. It's like you put little building blocks together and put the Legos together. They're building blocks from which reality is born. Your reality comes from your dreams. You can do anything that you want to do, and don't let anybody tell you differently. Don't let anybody say to you, well, you want to be an engineer. You can't be an engineer. You're not smart enough. Huh. You're smart enough. You're as smart as you want to be. You can do anything that you want to do in life. Don't let anybody turn you around. I wanted to be a coach. I went to college, and as time went by, I'm thinking about getting my degree, going back down to Charleston and coaching and teaching and doing all the things that was done for me when I was coming up. But as you grow older, your goals grow larger also because you become smarter. And so they grow larger. So then, all of a sudden, my freshman year, I get a letter from a pro team. Why are they sending me a letter? Okay. Played, got an opportunity to become drafted in 1968 by the Oakland Raiders in the 3rd round. Boy, was I happy. Now I get a chance to go up to the highest level of football, to get a chance to go up there and prove my worth. I did that. I went up, played for a number of years. About 6 or 7 years into the league, was doing okay. But at the same time, think about what am I going to do when I get through playing, because you can't play professional football all your life. You're lucky if you get 3 years in. You get 3 years in and then you get hurt. Now you got to do something with your life. You're 25, 26 years old. What are you going to do? Just sit down and do nothing? So you must prepare yourself as you move forward. You must prepare yourself. Preparation. Prepare to be successful. That's important. You got to continue to prepare. Right now in this room, there are a lot of people that are going to do a lot of different things. There are doctors in this room. There are dentists in this room. There are school teachers in this room. Put forth your dream. Put it forward and work on it. Nothing in life is easy. And let me tell you something. This world is cold and hard. There are people out there getting degrees now that don't understand why they can't get a job because of the economy. So a lot of people are going back to school. I got an older son, 35 years old. He went back to school. He said, Dad, because it's tough out here. I can't find the work that I want. So now he's studying to be an operating room assistant, learning all these tools that the doctors have to have when they do operations. And he tells me all the time, he said, Dad, it's hard. I said, son, life is hard. But you can do this. And he's getting there all A's on all of his work. You got to work at it. So getting back, after my 6th year, I decided I needed to let people know what I want to do. So I went to Mr. Davis and I said, John Madden was the first one, because when I played, I used to always grab a young man, a teammate, and I'd work after practice, put in the extra work. I said, come on, let's do some work over here. And I'd get that tackle or guard, and we'd do some work together, because I'm trying to refine my game at the same time, trying to help another young man who may have to play if I get hurt. So I did that. And John Madden told me one day, he said, you know, Art, you could be a coach one day. Bingo, the light goes off again. And then Mr. Davis said it. I said, when I get through, Mr. Davis, I'd like to stay in the organization and work towards being an assistant coach. You should continue to play and do well. When the time comes, we'll sit down and talk about it. Well, 9 years later, after 15 years, that time came. I couldn't play the game the way I wanted to play it. So therefore, it was time to move on. We had to talk. I became an assistant to one of the line coaches that was coaching me, and worked at my first year as an assistant. We went to the Super Bowl against the Washington Redskins, won that. And so now I'm wondering, how do you become a head coach in the National Football League? And I asked the question, Mr. Davis, how do you become a head coach? Now, mind you, there weren't that many black assistant coaches, period, in the National Football League. And definitely weren't any head coaches. And he said, go around, talk to some head coaches. You need to learn organization, and you need to learn personnel. Those things are important in our game. I worked, continue to work behind the scenes, doing my little work, helping out, helping coach some of the guys I played with. Then in 1989, I got a phone call about 12 o'clock midnight. How would you like to be the head coach of the Raiders? Wow. Well, sleep on it, and we'll talk tomorrow. Now, how in the devil am I going to sleep on that? 12 o'clock at night, the owner of the team said, how would you like to be a head coach of the Raiders? Wow. Didn't sleep a wink after that. But I'm sitting up, writing notes. If this happens, what am I going to say to the team? How am I going to talk to them? How am I going to set it up so that we have an easy transition from one coach to the next? And when you think about it, and when I thought about it, once I got the job, you'll be surprised at the amount of knowledge that you have on your head. That it start coming out when you're like a computer. You start pushing the button to try to pull something out, and it all comes out at you, and it scares you. So within your computers, there's a lot of knowledge there. Plenty of knowledge. And when you punch that button, it'll come out to the forefront and get you to where you need to go. So at that time, I became the first black head coach in the modern era of the National Football League. Very excited about it. How do I get my team to win? Because I felt I had to win. You got to win, period. But I felt I had to win because I had to set the pace so that other owners in the league could take a look at young black men and make sure that they're given an opportunity to succeed. So my success initially was very, very important for a lot of different reasons, not only to win for the Raiders, but also to win so that others could be given an opportunity to become a head coach in the National Football League. And I did that for a number of years. I coached the Raiders from 1989 to 1994. We went our separate ways. I coached at Kansas City for 2 years. Coached at Atlanta when Atlanta went to the Super Bowl. Coached there for 4 or 5 years. Then left there and went to the National Football League, worked with Commissioner Tagliabue, worked in the front office, became the senior vice president of football operations. So I was on the move. Even though I didn't get back to coaching in high school, I did do what I wanted to do, which was to coach. And I did teach, because coaching is nothing but teaching. That's what it is. And again, my message to you is, you can do anything you want to do. The world is yours. The success of our country is going to depend on people in this room. You young people. going to make decisions on how this country is going to be in the future. And those things can be done by all of you. Respect each other. Young men, respect these young women. Young women, respect yourself and respect the young men. Demand respect. Demand respect. Have a work ethic about you. If you got a good work ethic, employers will find you. They will find you. And I wish nothing but the best for all of you. It's there for you. Take advantage of it. This is coming from a young man that had parents that had sixth grade education, but in their minds, you must get a better education than what we had. As parents, we all want our kids to be better than what we were, and you can do that. I became the first in my family to graduate. I'm not talking about just my immediate family. I'm talking about in the family to graduate from college. 4 years, I got it in 4 years. I had to go to summer school to catch up, but I got it in 4 years. And my dad was so proud. He was so proud. I lost my mom when I was going into my 10th grade year. And I'm sure she was very proud too. But my dad, he was walking on clouds because I got a college degree. And I felt like the weight of the world had been lifted off my shoulders because I achieved what I started out to do. And I wanted to continue beyond that point to make myself a better man and a more productive citizen in our country. So again, good luck to all of you, and I wish you nothing but the best, because the best is in this room and the best is in you. You just got to tap into it like you tap into that computer and pull it out, pull it to the forefront, and forge ahead. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shell. You all just heard a great story about how a person, even a person from very humble beginnings, and a person who lost his mother at a very young age, nevertheless went on to achieve historic results in his life and career and is still doing that. And I think he gave us all some information that will be useful. One that certainly struck a chord with me is to identify your dreams and then figure out how to make your dreams a reality. And part of that, making your dreams a reality, I think he said, was to be prepared. Prepare yourself so that when opportunity does come along, you're ready to capitalize on that opportunity. Now with that, I'd like you to start thinking about some questions that you'd like to ask Mr. Shell. You have a tremendous opportunity to hear from somebody who's had all the experience and achievements that he's had. And so just raise your hand. We have people in the room with microphones that will bring them up. And if you use the mic, that will enable the students at the remote locations to hear your questions that Mr. Shell will answer. So while you're thinking about that, or do we have a hand? Because I do have some questions from the remote students. Is there a hand up somewhere? There's one right over there.
You want me to ask? Does it work?
Yes.
I've got a whole bunch of questions written down, so I'm prepared. I guess my first one is how does it make you feel to see Tony Dungy and Mike Tomlin win Super Bowls?
Well, first of all, let's back up a little bit. I remember when Tony and Lovey, Chicago Bears coach, were coaching in the Super Bowl. And I remember I called each one of them the week of the Super Bowl and said how proud I was of them for being involved in the game. It's just too bad that only one could win the game. But they both achieved success, and I'm very proud of that. And then Mike Tomlin comes along, and he wins the Super Bowl a couple years ago. That's progress for our country, and it's great progress for our game. I really, really enjoyed that, and I'm very proud of those guys, and Mike almost got it done again. When our game improves and bring people like that to the forefront, it makes it better for the whole National Football League as far as success is concerned. Mike McCarthy, I know Mike McCarthy, the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. We worked together at Kansas City. He was just a guy, a quality control guy, just worked on the computer, putting stuff together for the staff. Now he's the head coach of the world champions. So I'm proud of all of those guys. So Mike Tomlin and Tony Dungy winning the Super Bowl, very proud of them.
Great. Let me ask one that's from one of the remote locations. And it says, when you were growing up in South Carolina and when you went to Maryland, did you encounter racism in any of your experience or in the NFL as a player or coach, and how did you deal with it?
Well, when I left South Carolina to go to Maryland State College, that was in 1964. I graduated from high school in 64. At the time, we as blacks were not being recruited down south. So the only schools available to black young men in the South were the historically black schools. So in the state of South Carolina, you had South Carolina State, you had Benedict College, you had Allen University. Down south farther, you had Florida A&M. You had Grambling going towards the southwest. So in order for us to go to the major schools, major white schools, we had to go above the Mason-Dixie line, up north. So we weren't recruited. But that's just the way it was. But things changed when I graduated from college. The change came about, and I was glad to see that. So now all the kids that used to go to those schools are now being recruited by those other schools. There was no, when I got the job as the head coach of the Raiders, I received maybe 7 letters that were negative. That was a plus. I thought I would receive more. But from all the players in the National Football League, before the games, after I got the job, we would, you go out on the field and the players would come up and talk to you and say, congratulations. All the white guys, all the black guys, it didn't matter. Congratulations to you, Coach. It's been a long time coming, and you're deserving of the job. That made me feel good. I got one letter that I got that was negative. First game I coached in was with the New York Jets, against the New York Jets in New York, Monday Night Football. Wow, what a way to start a career. And the referee was Johnny Greer, the first black referee. Referee, not an official, referee in the National Football League. So we won the game against the Jets. That following week, I got a letter that says, you and your N-word referee stole the game. I looked at it and I laughed. And to this day, every time I see Johnny, I say, Johnny, you know you're my N-word referee. So we have a big laugh about it. So, but it was mostly positive. I would say 98% positive when I got the job.
Now, I'll just mention, at the outset, we said that part of this reason for this Black History Month program, not only to celebrate the achievements of African Americans, but also to celebrate the progress that all Americans have made to make the world a better place as it relates to diversity. And Art graduated in 64, I graduated the year before in 63, and I can tell you in my youth, and I'm sure in your youth, this type of audience where all people are going to school together didn't exist to the same extent it exists today. I think all of us should recognize that it's not just the achievements of African Americans. I'm sure Art could tell us about his fellow coaches, some of whom were white, certainly his players, some of whom were white, who worked together to make things happen as opposed to how it used to be when we were your age. Is there another question in the room? There we go.
Not to belittle you at all, what you've done is an amazing thing, but You've mentioned how there will be doctors in this room, there will be dentists, there will be lawyers. How do you feel about the salary difference between NFL players and doctors? I heard even...
Salary difference between NFL players and doctors. Everything got to be put in the right context. Doctors' careers, they go to med school, they go to college, they go to med school, and then for the rest of their lives, they're working at the profession. They get paid pretty good, probably not enough, but they get paid pretty good. When you read in the papers about football players in the National Football League making millions of dollars, that career may last 5 years. You're lucky, as I said earlier, if you get 3 years in the National Football League. But you got 40 years to live. And if that money is not taken care of, then you got a problem. So when you see on the TV or hear reading the news about how players are making all this money, yeah, they make a lot of money, and deservedly so, because the fans pay a lot of money for tickets, a lot of money for jerseys and T-shirts and things like that in order to facilitate the monies that the league makes. The league makes a lot of money. And right now they're going through discussions about how we're going to share the pie. And they'll get that done. But again, put in context when you talk about millions of dollars. When you read, and don't be looking at the contracts, okay, you're going to make $60 million over 7 years. Well, it ain't 7 years you're going to make that money. You look at the first 2 or 3 years of that contract. That's the real money. The other money is for cap purposes, how you make the cap work. So out of 60 million, you may get guaranteed 20 million. That's a lot of money still.
Good, thank you for that question. Other questions in the room? There's one in the corner on the left.
Yes, Mr. Shell. I was wondering, what do you think of the nickname Art the Dart Shell?
I like that. I like that. I had a couple nicknames. They used to call me Angus the Bull. We have one writer, Paul Zimmerman, who wrote for Sports Illustrated, used to call me the Brahma Bull. So I've had a few nicknames. A couple of others I won't even mention because I didn't like it.
I have another question from one of the schools outside. They said here, when you became the first African-American head coach, what kind of pressure was there on you to succeed so that others could follow?
Well, there was pressure, but you got to understand the pressure of winning and being successful is the pressure that you put upon yourself. And when you decided what you want to do in life, is you're going to put pressure on yourself to succeed at that particular field. For me, I became, at that time, the first in modern era, the head coach of the Oakland Raiders. And at that time, I used to get asked a lot of questions. How do you feel about being the black head coach? And after about 2 weeks, it became, how do you feel to be the head coach of the Raiders? That was progress. But in the back of my mind, initially, when I got the job, I had my a good friend I played with, Terry Robisky, was the offensive coordinator, and he's a black guy. And Terry, I said to Terry, I have to make this work. We have to make this work. Not because we got to win, us because we have to set the tone for people that follow me, blacks that follow me, so that they can have the opportunities to have a chance to achieve the job of being a head coach in the National Football League as an African American. So the success and the pressure was put on myself by me to achieve and make that happen, so that guys like Denny Green, Tony Dungy, and others could come along and have opportunities.
Great. Another question in the room? Yes, ma'am.
What would you say your greatest achievement in life was?
There's a couple. The first one for me was getting my college degree. That was very, very important to me. I had achieved something that I set out to do, something that my parents wanted me to do, and it also set the tone for my siblings to want to go to college also. So that was big for me. Second was being inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame as a player, and of course winning a Super Bowl. I played in 2 Super Bowls and coached in 1, coached in 4, coached in 2 others. Played in 2, coached in 2. So I'm very proud of that, having the opportunity to win a Super Bowl, because nobody can tell you the feeling that it takes to finally achieve the ultimate goal of winning the Super Bowl. That's great. That's a great feeling.
Another question? There's one right down front.
Yeah, right here.
Do you think the Rooney Rule has been effective in the NFL, and is there anything that you would change to maybe make it better?
Art, you
I
might first explain what the Rooney Rule
Right.
is, Art. Thing.
The Rooney Rule is a rule that was put in place to make sure each club, when they decide to make a change and hire a new coach, they had to interview a minority. They had each club. So if the Cleveland Browns decided that they wanted to make a change like they did this past year from the coach they had to the one they have now, they had to interview at least one minority in that process. Now, some people look at that and say, that's just token. That's a token interview. I don't look at it that way, because the more you're involved in that process, the better opportunities you have, because even though you may not get that job, you just talk to an owner and a general manager who interviews you for 5 hours about how would you run their particular football team. That's something that will be remembered, because the next time when it rolls around and somebody else interview you, that owner will call that owner that interviewed you and say, what did you think of this guy? And that owner will, based on your presentation to him, will give you probably a good recommendation. So, you know what? We were moving in a different direction, but I think that guy is worthy of being a head coaching candidate. So with the Rooney Rule, I think it's great. It gives not everybody, give African Americans an opportunity to go through the interview process, because most don't know what it's like. You hear about it, you talk about it, but once you go through the process, now you can refine your skills. It's like you interview for any job. You go through the interview process, and you don't get the job, but you figure out ways that you can make your application for the job a lot better, and you can refine your skills in the interview process.
I have another question here from Lucasville, Ohio Middle School, Valley Middle School, where it relates to what you've been encouraging these students to have dreams, big dreams, and pursue those dreams. And you did that in your life, but this student asked, what about the fact that as you were pursuing your dreams, things get tough? And were there ever times in your life that you just wanted to quit when things got tough?
Never. Never quit. You change direction, but the goal is still there. The apple is still sitting out there. All of a sudden, you run into get into a bog, you get sucked down in that doggone snow, that mud. Okay, now you got to negotiate your way out of that and around the snowbank, because you're still trying to achieve that goal. Don't ever give up on your goal. If you believe that goal is worthwhile, go for it. Don't ever believe that you can't do anything. Because if you quit one time, you'll quit again when going gets tough. The old cliche, quitters never win. What is that?
Winners never quit.
Winners never quit. Quitters never win, and winners never quit. That's an old cliche, but it's true. Don't back away from something that's standing in front of you. There are obstacles out there, plenty of obstacles. It's not going to be easy. Life is not easy. It's how you prepare yourself to negotiate those particular obstacles. You work on a doggone computer, something happens on the computer, okay, I'm going to bypass that, I'm going to go this way. It's the same thing in life.
And I'll ask you, do you think that's equally true in the modern age when young people deal with different distractions than we dealt with, including drugs, everything that's on the internet and a variety of things, or does the same rule still apply today as it did when you were their age?
Same rules apply. Nothing's changed. It's just like football. All these plays that you see in the wide receivers all over the place and the plays that are being run, those things, there's nothing new. Those things happened in the past. So it's all relevant to today. Whatever happened in the past can happen today. You continue to move forward. Remember, there are choices and there are consequences. Make the right choices in your life. All of you know, believe me, all of you know, 90-something% of you in this room and on the video conference know what's right and what's wrong. It's okay to walk away from a negative situation. My first year in the league, I went to a house party. Rookie, don't know any better. Didn't even drink. But I went to the room, I said, what would you like to drink? I said, well, give me what do you call that thing? A screwdriver. Let me have one of those. So I sipped on that, and then somebody lit up something there, and it smelled like a doggone, some cloth or something was burning. I said, I asked somebody, I said, what is that? I'm naive. I don't know this stuff. I'm naive. What is that? There's some marijuana. Marijuana. But I heard about marijuana. I put the little cocktail down, and I said, I'll see you guys later. I'm gone. Getting out of a negative situation, there's nothing good in that. All of you can do the same thing. And no matter whether you're parasitic or you chicken, you just a wuss. You walking away. Well, I'll be a wuss and I'll walk away, but I'm not going to put myself in jeopardy to get in trouble. I'm not going to do that because I know what's right and what's wrong. All of you know what's right and what's wrong. Choices and consequences. You make a bad decision, you're going to pay for it.
Thank you. Another question? Yes, right down front. And then there.
I'm from Tusky Valley. I was wondering, how was it coaching some of the greatest players like Tim Brown and Howie Long?
It's great. Makes life easy when you got players like Howie Long and Tim Brown, because those guys were super players, and they set a work ethic. They had a work ethic about themselves that made others stand up and take a look and say, well, these guys are Pro Bowl players. Is the reason why they're Pro Bowl players because they work at their craft. They work at being good. They don't just show up to practice and as soon as the whistle blows and over, run off the field because, hey, my day is done. You don't become great like that. You put in the extra. You do a little bit more than you have to do. Put in the time. And when you're coaching players like Tim Brown and Howie Long, which I had a lot of fun with, those guys make us, because when things got bad in practice, I jump Howie. Because there's the big dog on the team. And he jumping Howie, I know he'll get after me. So I jump Howie. I just pick a fight with Howie. And he didn't do anything, but I jump him upside down. What the devil are you doing? You can't practice like that. And he'd look at me like, what did I do? He didn't do anything, but I was sending a message to the rest of the team. And he understood that. So it was great coaching those guys. This guy, Howie's a Pro Football Hall of Famer, and Tim Brown soon will be.
Question in the blue shirt and then across the aisle after that.
What was your training schedule like in the NFL?
Say again?
What was your training schedule like in the NFL?
Training schedule?
Yeah.
As a player?
Yeah.
Off season. You talking about individually? Okay, as an off season, at a certain time, back then, we didn't have what we have now. We have all this weightlifting and stuff going on during the off season, weightlifting and running. These guys start in March. Next month, they'll start training again for July. They start getting ready. So back then, when I was playing, we didn't have that. Football players were working in the off season. They were working because they wanted to try to better themselves and set themselves up for the future after the game of football. So we started a program where we started working out. Some of us get together and we started a regimen where we worked out, we lifted weights, and we started doing some running. All those types of things to get ourselves prepared for the upcoming year. Then as it evolved, teams started doing it in the off season, so it made it a lot easier for us to start getting prepared for the season.
Thank you. I think there's a question. You said you had a bunch right across there.
Where'd you develop the mentality that you talked about never quitting? And I got a bunch of my players here, and I think that sometimes they quit. Where'd you develop that mentality not to quit and to basically do what's right all the time?
I had a father that was very tough. I learned it from my father. The foundation was set by him. Growing up, I remember him telling me, you can do anything you want to do in life. I can remember getting ready to take the driver's test for my driver's license, and I was scared to death. Scared to death. And he said, what's wrong with you? I said, I'm really nervous about doing this. He said, the officer that's going to give you the exam puts his pants on the same way you put yours on. So there's nothing to be afraid of. You know what? When he said that to me, it's just like energy went from the toes on up to the top of my head. He was very confident. My coaches always preach, stick in there, hang in there. It's going to get tough, but you got to believe. And for the rest of my life, I always believed that we could find a way to win, find a way to be successful. And if you got that within you, there's nothing that can stop you. I always believed that. We'd play teams and we'd be down with 2 minutes left in the game. And we're down by a touchdown. We had 3 points. We had a quarterback that I played with, Ken Stabler. We had a lot of fun. Snake would walk in the huddle and say, okay, guys, the beer's getting warm. Let's go ahead and win this doggone game and get out of here. So he got that confidence, and I got it too. I said, well, one thing is going to happen. My guy ain't going to get there and sack him. It ain't going to happen today. I'm going to block my guy. And every man on that line of scrimmage that we had as offensive lineman felt that same way. We give him time. He's going to make the throw, and our receiver's going to catch the ball, and we'll win the game, and then we'll go have a cold beer.
Yes, over here.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Chanel Woodridge, and my question was, during your football and student career, did you have time to do something fun other than football?
Do something fun other than football.
Fun. I don't know, anything other than football.
Yeah, sure. We went to little house parties. Went to house parties and things like that. We had young ladies for girlfriends. We had fun. We did little things beyond football. I played basketball and football in high school, and I played 2 years of basketball in college also. But there was always time to do that. You can do that, because you weren't playing basketball all year long. You weren't playing football all year long. So there were times in there, even during the season, you could do some things. You don't have to party every night, but you can do some things. There's always a way. If you organize yourself, organize what you want to do and how you're going to do it, you'll be surprised of the time that you can find to do the things that you want to do.
I have another question I'm going to ask. You've mentioned that in addition to your playing days and your coaching days, you also were an administrator in the National Football League for many years and worked in the office at 280 Park Avenue in New York. And I see there's a number of women in the room, so aren't there some careers in football for ladies as well as men?
Yes. I worked on the floor. I worked on in the football operations. A lot of ladies up there, a lot of career ladies. Some of them been in the league office almost as long as I had been playing football. But there are opportunities for young ladies. Matter of fact, we were always trying to recruit young ladies to get involved. I remember when I took over as Senior Vice President of Football Operations, which meant I had NFL Europe up under my title, I had officiating up under my title, and a couple other things up under my title. And there was a young lady that wanted to be involved in learning about football, studying film. How do you scout a player? And so what I would do while I'm in there watching film, I'd call her in the room. And I would say to her, I'd say, okay, where's the strength of the formation? I would teach her the strength of the formation, the tight end and the wide receiver. Where was the strength of the formation? Those types of things. Okay, tell me about this young man. He looks like he's a pretty good football player. What do you think his strengths are? Good footwork, ability to bend, ability to change direction. So I would have her just trying to help her get along because this is the goal that she wanted. She wanted to become very adept at scouting and understanding the game of football. So there are opportunities in the National Football League for a lot of young ladies if you so desire. But again, prepare yourself and be prepared when you go there. They have internships at the National Football League, so you can get involved that way.
Great. We have time for, I think, 2 more questions. Is there a hand down here? A couple back there.
Hi, I'm Marissa, and I'm from Woodridge. I was just asking if you can go back and change anything, what would it be?
If I could go back and change anything, what would it be? But I could win a Super Bowl as a coach. I was very close my second year as a coach. Standing up, in Buffalo, we played the Buffalo Bills in a championship game. We win that game, we go to the Super Bowl. And the week before, we lost Bo Jackson to a freak accident, freak injury. And I would change that. I would probably try to change a couple other things throughout my career, change the face of football so that it wouldn't have to wait until 1989 to hire a minority to be a head coach in the National Football League. We would hope it would happen a lot sooner. Basketball was way ahead. Basketball started in the 1960s with Bill Russell as the first head coach in the National Basketball Association. So I would have changed that. But those things started changing dramatically once I became head coach. Things started changing. We started getting more black minority coaches in the National Football League, so therefore the pool grew and it's continuing to grow.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm Coach Stammen from Woodridge High School. And,
yes, sir.
Today's kids are kind of being forced or put into positions where they have to go to one sport only and not participate in other sports at the high school level and even at the middle school level. A lot of gymnastics and a lot of soccer players and a lot of basketball players and football players are pretty much forced to join one sport and concentrate on that sport only. What is your opinion on that?
I think it's bad. I said it many years ago when I found out about it. When my son was playing basketball in high school, he wanted to play football. The good thing that I had when I was coming up, we were able to play more than one sport. If you could do it, you played 3, if you're good enough at a high school. My school at the time only had basketball and football, and I was fortunate enough to be able to play both. But the coaches, and I think what has changed is the coaches have changed. The coaching at the time, you had my basketball coach also coached on the football field with the head football coach. And what happened is as time went by, all of a sudden, you got a basketball coach who's not involved with football, and you got a football coach who's not involved with basketball, and you got a baseball coach and a track coach. So the lack of communication between the 4 of them, in my mind, has been bad for the kids, because I think the kids should have the opportunity. You can't just pigeonhole people into one rise They might be okay at that, but they might be adept at doing something else totally different and really rise to the top. So I don't like the idea of saying, okay, if you play basketball for me, you can't play football. If you play football for me, you can't play basketball. To me, it's all interchangeable. I thought basketball was great for me because it gave me footwork. When I used to play, I used to always try to guard the smallest guy. We messed around, just playing around there. I'd grab the smallest guy and try to guard him because I knew it helped me on the football field. Because if I could guard him out on the basketball floor, and as a lineman, I know that I can guard a guy the same size as I am, because I just guarded a smaller guy, a bigger guy. He don't have a chance. It's just like throwing a fastball on a curveball. So I don't like the idea of the coaches pigeonholing the kids and saying they can't play other sports. I think that's a wrong idea. I don't think it's good for high school basketball. I don't even think it's good for college basketball. But college, when you move up to college, you are basically where you are supposed to be. I played high school basketball, had a couple of offers in basketball, but I knew where I was going, football, where I was going to go.
Well, unfortunately, we are running out of time. You have had an extraordinary opportunity to have a upfront and close personal conversation with a person who has given you, I think, a lot of ideas to think about in order that someday you'll be standing on a podium and talking to some students about your career success and your life success. So let's give Hall of Famer Art Shell a big round of applause.